Ladies, gents, boys and girls, Papa Smoke back again for another edition of Tales from the Bocor. Okay, so today's edition, I was supposed to bring it out yesterday, and I'm really sorry that I didn't. I just basically had a large influx of work, a few private readings to do. On that note, tarot readings are £10 a pop, by the way, £10 a person. Energy healings are free for the most dire cases, otherwise it's £10 per person. Okay, so anyways, without further ado, today's video is based on Lwa and Samedi, so it's another spiritual experience I've had personally. So, as some of you know, I'm Bocor. Because we work primarily with the Guede, and we serve the dead, as well as walking the path of Sampuel, which is the path of power and money. It's unusual for somebody from European background who's white, to be honest with you, to be brought into the practice of Haitian voodoo and to work as a Bocor. However, I had quite an interesting spiritual experience that led me down this path, and that's what today's video is about. So, as you've noticed the image on the screen, it's of Baron and Brigitte, yeah? For a long time, I didn't even know this spirit existed. To be honest with you, I haven't seen the James Bond film where he's prevalent in it. And there are a number of other things that I hadn't seen based in culture where Baron Samedi was prevalent. I never made links between popular movies and spirits either when I thought about Baron Samedi. But a long time ago, a long time ago, and I'm on about 15 years ago or something like that. 16, I was 21 when it happened anyway. I'm 37 now, so about 16 years ago, I was a very carnal, physical person in this world. I used to train every day, train hard. I used to be involved in cage fighting, and I used to also own a gun license. So for those of you in America that don't know, in England, in order to own guns, you have to have a specific license and a specific paperwork, similar to the licensing and paperwork you guys have to have with the ATF in order to own automatics. However, in England, we can't own automatics. We can only own like 22s, handguns and 22 rifles that are semi-automatic. Everything else has to be straight pull or with limited ammunition capacity. So I was very physical, very carnal in this now kind of person. Now, throughout my life, through childhood and everything, I've had spiritual experiences. One of the scariest things actually growing up and not being fully versed in spirituality, sorry, was the fact that I'm clairaudient and also a little clairtangent. So there'd be some cases where I would get voices and I would think I was absolutely batshit insane. And these weren't voices. Well, they were voices, but they weren't anything from my psyche. These were actually spirits giving me advice, giving me instruction, telling me what to do. Yeah. And because some of the spirits that are linked to me are like Lwa Samedi, for example, they say some quite extreme stuff sometimes. Yeah. So I used to think I was absolutely batshit crazy. Also, growing up, I went to several posh schools with a lot of history, and when I touched certain things, I used to get flashes and images in my head of certain events that had happened or stuff like that. That's called being clairtangent. Yeah. Unfortunately, the clairtangents are sort of rebuffed and blocked out because it were freaking me out as a kid. I used to get premonitions too, which I blocked and rebuffed, and they were freaking me out as a kid as well. And there are a couple of gifts I'd actually really like to have back one day. But anyways, regarding spirituality and regarding Lwa and Samedi himself, I've always believed in spirits and I've always believed in ghosts, as I had a very spiritual experience and a very spiritual life as a child. Because I had these gifts, these spirits would approach me. But again, my parents were like, no, you just watch too many scary stuff. You're not watching Ghostbusters anymore, blah, 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 blah. Just standard stuff your normal, mundane, muggledy type parents would say to you. Yeah. So I just basically thought, yeah, I'm just basically too susceptible to horror and stuff like that. I'm too easy to scare, basically. It turns out I wasn't, though. I'm not easy to scare at all. In fact, there's a lot of people that have tried that failed to scare me. So growing up, I was always interested in the paranormal. I used to watch paranormal shows with the girl I was seeing at the time. We used to watch a lot of those together and we used to think they were absolutely awesome. I used to love horror movies. In fact, I still do love horror movies. I used to watch them a lot as well. And I used to love anything to do with sort of like witchcraft or horror and stuff like that. It really resonated with me. So one day, what happened is I was asleep in my house in Wakefield, and I'd basically the night before I'd had a party with my ex-girlfriend's brothers. Well, she's my ex now, with her brothers, and I got absolutely fuck drunk, really drunk, really stoned, and I passed out in bed. While I was passed out, back on Samedi come to me, literally pulled me out of my body into an astral projection, basically. So now my energetic self is floating above my spiritual self, seeing my spiritual self sleeping in a deep sleep. And I didn't notice myself breathing, to be honest. So I thought, I must have like thrown up and choked on my vomit. I must be dead. And I heard this in the corner of the room. So I looked over and there's a dude in the top hat, and at the moment he's in the shadows, yeah. And I used to watch a show called Paranormal Witness, and one of those episodes has the Hat Man in it. So the first thing I thought is this was the Hat Man had been killed by a malevolent spirit. So I was like, "Are you the Hat Man?" And he stepped forward and went, "Don't be so foolish." And I saw the skull in his face, and the top hat on, and I went, "Are you Death?" And he went, "That's one of my names." I was like, "Am I dead? Are you here for me?" He went, "You're not dead, but I am here for you." And I was like, "What have I done?" He's like, "Absolutely nothing." And he says to me, "You have a very, very unique future in front of you, a very powerful, unique future in front of you, but you need to shed your fear." So he knew straight away that I was frightened of certain aspects of spirituality back then, because as a carnal, physical person, I wasn't afraid of anything I could kill. But things that are already dead, or things that exist as energy that you can't put a bullet in or you can't just beat down, yeah, I was absolutely terrified of. So as a result, he pulled me out of my body. We had this discourse, and he put his hand out and said, "You can come with me, but you need to leave your fear behind." As soon as I grabbed his hand, all sorts of images of Veves and stuff flashed through my mind. It was absolutely intense. This is one of the Veves. It was absolutely intense. And through the whole 8 or 9 hours of me sleeping, I was literally with him, but it felt like I was with him for days. I was getting notices from him, I was getting knowledge for him. He spiritually took me to Haiti and to other places, and basically explained to me about the Haitian voodoo, and explained to me about magic, and explained to me that I would face a lot of opposition because there's a lot of racist gatekeeping in voodoo. I would face a lot of opposition. There's a lot of racist gatekeeping in voodoo, but I would end up rising above it and becoming one of the most powerful Bocors in the world. So I asked him, "What is a Bocor?" He explained to me what a Bocor was. He explained to me about the path of Sampuel. I thought, power and money. Sounds awesome. I'm in. But it wasn't quite that simple. There was years went by where I had to physically prove myself to my teacher, physically, mentally, and spiritually prove myself to my teacher. And what's really, really, really strange is he actually connected me with that teacher. So after this experience, when I slammed back in my body and jerked awake, I didn't tell anyone about it. I thought that was a trippy dream. That must have been some good weed I was smoking. So I didn't tell anybody about this, yeah. But I started to get a bit curious. So I started to visit witchcraft groups on Facebook, started to get involved in conversation groups and find out about witchcraft and stuff. I instantly found a load of chicken Wiccans trying to judge me and tell me what I can and can't do, and free fall this and bullshit that, and let's warble at the moon. When Wicca's really based on Christianity, to be fair. The four lords of the quarter, the four watchtowers, sorry, are the four angels, archangels of the quarter. The horned god that drags you off into the woods when you do something wrong is Satan. Do I need to compare Wicca to Christianity even more? No, I don't think so. But I hit a path that basically didn't resonate with me. So I thought maybe I'm supposed to be pagan. So I went down the Norse pagan route, had a look at their sort of things. Again, didn't resonate with me. Looked at demonolatry. Demonolatry did resonate with me. And while I was on my search at demonolatry, I met a spirit called Lucifer's Rofakal that taught me about the skills needed to perform the combined middle pillar and full banishing ritual of the planetary master key, which I later learned, mastered, and still use today. However, in this search and in these interactions online on Facebook, the Mambo that taught me, and she would like to go by the name Mambo Mama Midnight Asogwe, which is not her actual magical name or not her actual real name, but she has a political background and she's a member of 2 prominent voodoo houses. She works 21 divisions. I'm not going to name the houses. I'm just going to say she works 21 divisions. 21 is a sacred number in voodoo, as it's sacred to Bocor and Samedi and sacred to the dead. Yeah. This is why a lot of my group rights I charge £21 for. Yeah. So she ended up eventually watching my conversations, for most of which were arguments with a bunch of moon wobbling idiots that were so restrictive it was unbelievable. And eventually she approached me and she went, look, I think you're this guy. And I'm like, what guy? And she's like, Bocor and Samedi has come to me and told me that I need to take someone under my wing, that I need to train them. I instantly thought, scam. Yeah. So I was like, how much then, love? You know, just trying to play along, trying to get charged of price. So I could call her a scammer, cuss her out and block her. And she went, nothing. I went, what do you mean nothing? And she went, the Lwa will give me my reward. And I'm like, what's a Lwa? And she's like, the spirit you were with the other day is a Lwa from a nation, so nation, called the Guede. He's a Guede Lord. Okay, brilliant. So tell me about him. So she sent me a photo of Veve's. This particular Veve I drew myself. This is part of work that I did. But she sent me a photo of this Veve, not this exact one. Like I said, this is part of work I drew when I was proficient. Sent me a photo of a Veve, instantly clicked. Something just flashed in my memory, and I thought, oh my days, that's that sign. Because at first I was looking for it as a sigil because I didn't even know it was called a Veve. Yeah. And she sent me several pictures of Baron Samedi and his wife, Maman Brigitte. Yeah. She also explained to me that I felt drawn to paganism because Maman Brigitte was formerly the goddess Bridget before Baron Samedi basically thought she was absolutely amazing and beautiful and married her. And then she became Maman Brigitte. Yeah. So just a quick one. This is why the gatekeeping in voodoo is racist, because there are white Lwa. Maman Brigitte is not depicted as white here because of the racist gatekeeping, but she is. Same for Marie Nepielce, she's white, and same for Zuni Freda, she's white. Yeah. The whole thing is just racist gatekeeping. It's people keeping alive centuries old hatred that shouldn't exist anymore. Every culture on this earth has taken slaves at one point. The fact that one specific culture holds it against another specific culture after a couple of 100 years is absolutely insane. But let's get back on track, yeah? So the Mambo basically showed me pictures of him. And I'm like, that's him. That's the guy I was with. And she's like, that's not a guy. That's a spirit. He's a god. He's a Lwa. So she says, I'm supposed to teach you. I'm not going to charge you. I'm not scamming you. Would you mind accepting my friend request? We can get to know each other. I'll start to teach you things. And when you start to see things manifest, you'll realize. Yeah. So at this point, I'm thinking, if she doesn't want any money, she just must be batshit crazy. Yeah. But I'm one of these guys that humors people. Yeah. So I was like, okay, then show me what you've got, Mom. So she started to teach me the basics, the ground rules, everything about serving the Lwa, about saluting the Lwa, about sacred songs, about sacred music, sacred drums, sacred dance, everything. Yeah. Including the most important ground rules, cleansing, banishing, and spiritual hygiene. Yeah. She taught me all of this information, and I started to apply this knowledge to my practices going forward, and manifestations started to happen. And then one day she was like, I think you're ready to do your first root working. So at this point, my roads were not open yet. You see, Bocors are not initiated into the actual religion of voodoo. Yeah, there are 2 aspects to voodoo. Yeah, there's the orthodox religion. Yeah, that's run by the Hungans and the Mambos, so the priest class. Yeah, the highest of which is the Asogwe rating, Hungan Asogwe, Mambo Asogwe. Yeah, highest. They're the people that have been presented the Ason by Papa Loco. Yeah, upon initiation. But Bocors are not initiated in the same way. That's why I don't own or use an Ason. I can use a Maraca, but I cannot use an Ason because I'm not part of the priest class. Nor can I perform Mariage de Loi, nor can I perform initiations. Yeah, I can perform road openings all day long. Yeah, and I'm not supposed to be able to do Met readings. However, due to my Mettet being Met Carfu, the owner of the crossroads, there's a way around that. So anyways, she said, you've got to do your first route working. However, because you're not initiated and because your roads aren't open, first of all, you must pay respects to Papa Legba. And she showed me how to step into Papa Legba's world, how to make offerings to him, what to say to him, one of which is quite famous now, Atibo Papa Legba, Louvre Porte la Pomwe. It actually directly translates as Little Papa Legba, please open the doors for me. But I feel disrespectful calling the guardian of the crossroads Little Papa Legba. But that's exactly how it translates. There's another one, which I'm not going to use. I'm not going to say it's in my book. But it basically means, Papa Legba, please open the door for me. And when I return, I shall thank the Lwa. Yeah. You say these to him because he's the intermediary, the way between the worlds. And he will open the gates for you then and allow you to step into the world of the Lwa you wish to work with. So, my first route working was done on a people trafficking scumbag. This particular person had been promising people in Mexico a brilliant life in America, getting them, addicting them to drugs, locking them in motels, and selling them as prostitutes. One day, one of these ladies escaped and ran away, but sadly, he caught her, ran her down with his car, and shot her. So anyways, one of the people I met in the witchcraft group, they came to me with this story. I don't know why they came to me with this story, because at the time I was not offering professional services. I was doing a few works for myself, but I wasn't really sharing that information yet. But they came to me with this story. So I said to my mambo, I'd like us to do something about this, please. So my first working before my roads were opened was actually to work with Bocor Samedi to put a curse on this guy. We put a curse on this guy because he got away with it, by the way. There was no proof that he was the one that pulled the trigger, and there was no proof that he ran her over because it wasn't done in his car. So he initially got away with it, which is why people came. So what happened after the curse was put on is the dickhead in question, I know he said gentleman, but I refuse to call him a gentleman, had a car crash with what they call a brick, so a kilo of cocaine in his car, an unregistered firearm, because he's a felon. Yeah, he was already been in jail before, so he was a felon. He shouldn't have had a firearm. Yeah. And he was that messed up that badly. He was still there when the police and emergency services workers came. He woke up handcuffed to his hospital bed, and then he was transferred to prison, where he bumped into gang members that were also the family of other people he'd abused and locked away and basically sold. He was then beaten and stabbed repeatedly, to the point now where he's in solitary confinement because it's not safe for him to be on any wing, in any jail, in any state. Because the gangs he'd pissed off have connections. Let's just say that. We're not naming names because I'm not a snitch. So this was my first manifestation, and that's when I first thought, wow, Mambo Mama Midnight is actually real. She knows her stuff. Yeah. And from then on, moving forward, I have had a close relationship with Bocor Samedi. I've worked with Bocor Samedi. I almost exclusively work with Bocor Samedi and Maman Brigitte. Hardly ever work with any other spirits. Almost exclusively work with Bocor Samedi and Maman Brigitte. Bocor Samedi is what they call my 5-year tep, voice of reason. Met Carfu is what they call my Mette. Yeah, the owner of my head. Met Carfu is a very important Lwa. He owns the crossroads. That's what Met Carfu means, owner of the crossroads. Yeah, this is why in certain left-hand path bastardizations of this, yeah, you know they're incorrect and they're lying and they've never served a Lwa because they call him Carfu. In Haitian Creole and in the other variation of Creole, there is no such thing as a Carfu. Carfu means crossroads. Met means owner. Met Carfu, not Met Carfu. Yeah, sorry, it's just a bugbear of mine. People write it in books and talk about it on videos, and just because they've got a few thousand subscribers, everyone thinks that they're proper knowledgeable, and they don't know shit, to be fair. So that's why I have a fiery temper, by the way, as well, is because he's a very fiery Lwa. He's extremely important. He knows it, and if you piss him off, you really regret it. So then I became close with these Lwa, close with these spirits, and I've had nothing but spiritual experiences ever since, including dreams, including manifestations of spirits walking out of the fires, including manifestations of spirits taking shape in smoke form, and including the Lwa coming down and speaking to me to my face. Yeah. Bocor Samedi's with me quite often, especially when I do my readings. He's in my ear quite a bit, although he's a very crass, coarse languaged, rude Lwa, so I have to filter him, shall we say, especially when I'm doing a professional read on the tarot line. Yeah. Bocor Samedi is one of the Lwa who doesn't stand on ceremony, so you don't need Papa Legba's permission for him to come to you. You can't just approach him, no. If he comes to you, he comes to you. Yeah, that's his choice. But you don't need Papa Legba's permission necessarily to work with him. However, when the Mambo was training me, we were getting Papa Legba's permission to do all the works we were doing before my roads were opened, because what we were trying to do is do things the correct way and prove to Legba that I'm fit to have my roads open. Months later, I had my roads open, and I've been Papa Smoke ever since. Sorry, this is a short one. There's no one to ask me questions here. If anyone wants to appear on these podcasts and talk about their experiences, let me know. I'm Papa Smoke. This is Tales from the Bocor. See you next time, people. Peace.